Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S25 and compare it against the iPhone 14 and see which particular device is the better one for you. Now, I do think in a majority of ways the Samsung Galaxy S25 might be the better one, but there might be some areas where the iPhone 14 could also be a better device when it comes down to it as well. So let's go and take a look at it. Number one, if you want to pick up either one of these particular devices, you can find them for the cheapest prices that I can find linked down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones, the iPhone 14, which came out back in 2022, on the front side is giving you a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. Now, this type of panel I think is pretty good for the most part. Okay, it's not terrible. It's a 60Hz display and you are getting a notch up top. So those things, already kind of strike me as not being necessarily the best type of look for this type of device. I do think there could be significantly better devices like this than this one. Even in 2022, Apple could have made a better device. But if you think about it, even in this day and age, Apple's still kind of using the same type of display when it comes down to it. So from that side in and of itself, that is kind of one of the big things to kind of keep in mind here. Like if you're going to go through and pick up a device, this is one of those things to keep in mind. It's really not like the best display of all time. On the Samsung Galaxy S25, this phone is going to be giving you a 6.2-inch dynamic LTPO AMOLED display. So this type of panel definitely is significantly better. So number one, there's less bezel on it. There's also basically a hole punch display, so there's not like a big, notch in the way. But also number two, another big thing here is that with that type of device, there's a really, really big thing going on here. 120 Hertz. That is by far one of the biggest things going on for this type of device when it comes down to it. Like if you're going to go through and pick up a device, it is a really nice thing of basically being able to buy a phone that's going to be giving you that type of capability. And personally for me, if I'm going to go through and pick up a device, I really like having that type of capability when it comes down to it. So that right there, in my personal opinion, definitely gets a thumbs up for me. Now on top of that, some other very big things to keep in mind here. Both of them are going to be giving you basically like good build qualities with flat sides, which is nice. The Samsung Galaxy S25 though is going to be giving you a USB Type-C port on the bottom, whereas on the iPhone 14 on the other hand, that phone is basically going to be giving you a Lightning port. So Lightning is already pretty outdated when it comes down to it. So that right there is kind of an issue. Like if you're wanting to go ahead and get the biggest and best phone, unfortunately with the Samsung Galaxy S25, that phone is going to be giving you more capability with that port with Samsung DeX. The iPhone 14 just has that standard Lightning port. On the backside, on the iPhone 14, you're getting a standard glass back with MagSafe capability and a dual camera setup, where the Samsung Galaxy S25 is giving you this frosted glass back with wireless and reverse wireless charging with a triple camera setup. So definitely, in almost every single way I can imagine, the Samsung Galaxy S25 is definitely going to be giving you more of a flagship feeling phone when it comes down to it, but there's a pretty big thing to keep in mind here. On the iPhone 14, this is going to be one of those devices that you basically look at as probably being more of a, price per dollar, like a better value per dollar. The iPhone 14 doesn't cost $800 like the Galaxy S25. The iPhone 14 costs about $354. That is substantially cheaper than the Galaxy S25. So if you were wanting to buy a phone that's going to be giving you a better value per dollar, definitely a phone like a, iPhone 14 could essentially be giving you that there. So that right there could be a pretty big thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes down to it on that side. Now, when it comes down to the cameras, like I said before, the iPhone 14 is giving you a dual camera setup, a 12 megapixel wide and then 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, where the Galaxy S25 is giving you a 50 megapixel wide, 10 megapixel telephoto, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. So there's definitely going to be some pros and cons when you're going to go through and pick up either one of these types of phones, right? So that's kind of one big thing to keep in mind there. For starters, number one, I definitely do feel like both these phones are giving you pretty good cameras. They're both giving you 4K at 60 on the front and the back. But the big thing to keep in mind here is that with the Samsung Galaxy S25, that phone is basically giving you 8K capability on the backside of that type of device. So that right there is actually already a pretty big deal if you ask me. Like being able to go through and buy a phone that's going to be giving you that type of layout already, I think is already a pretty big deal. Personally for me, like I mentioned before, I like being able to go through and buy a phone that's going to be giving me that type of solid experience. And already when it comes down to it, the Samsung Galaxy S25 is definitely going to be dominating it. It's going to be giving you a really good experience from that camera side. So again, that's not to say that the Samsung Galaxy S25 is like substantially, insanely better in every single way, but there's definitely going to be improvements that the Samsung Galaxy S25 is going to be giving you than the iPhone 14 can basically give you. So kind of keep that in mind when it kind of comes down to it. Number one. Now, on top of that, some other big things to keep in mind here too. The Samsung Galaxy S25, when it comes down to the software experience, is also still going to be giving you a longer supported phone within that type of device than from something like the iPhone 14. So this was something that was actually pretty interesting, because if we were to go through and kind of look at these phones from a couple of years ago, what's very interesting is that both of these types of devices, right, the Samsung Galaxy S25 and the iPhone 14, are going to be supported with software for quite some time. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind here. Like if you're wanting the phone that's going to be lasting for a longer period of time, it's definitely going to be something like a Samsung Galaxy S25 here. That phone is going to be giving you a longer software support. It's going to be giving you better capability here and there. And that is something that's always been kind of shocking to me, because what Samsung did here, they gave us 7 years of software and security updates. That right there is a very, very big thing. So I do feel like that in and of itself is one of the biggest takeaways of kind of going through and purchasing one of those types of devices. So kind of keep that in mind when it kind of comes down to it as well. Now, on top of that, some other very big things to keep in mind here too is the fact that when it comes down to the batteries, the battery life on the Samsung Galaxy S25 is also going to be substantially better. You're going to be getting overall better battery life and a better experience. So that right there is going to be probably one of the big things to keep in mind. But the iPhone 14's battery life still isn't really that terrible either. Finally, when it comes down to the performance, the iPhone 14 is going to be giving you the Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6GB of RAM, where the Galaxy S25 is giving you the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset with 12GB of RAM. So this right here is another very big difference and a very big deal. Being able to go through and basically upgrade your phone from a 14 to a Galaxy S25 and get twice the amount of RAM, that is a pretty crazy thing in and of itself. But also with the improvements when it comes down to the overall performance of it, I mean, that also is another very big difference. The Galaxy S25 chipset is so good, and with the added advantage of being able to install whatever apps, including whatever emulators you want inside of your phone, makes that device stand up so much better against basically all the other competition, especially on the iPhone side. So I definitely do think from that side in and of itself, that is without a doubt one of my most favorite things going on for that type of device when it comes down to it. Like if you're going to go through and pick up a device, that right there is an amazing thing. And that's something I really do like about my iPhone, about my Samsung Galaxy S25. So overall, to kind of sum up this whole entire video, I definitely will tell you I love the iPhone 14. I think it's a great phone, and I do think it still is worth buying, especially from a price per dollar standpoint. It's a substantially cheaper device, but I will tell you with something like the Samsung Galaxy S25, that phone, I like the Galaxy S25 clearly. This is a way better phone. It's going to be giving you better capability, better display, better performance, better cameras, better longevity. Basically everything across the board is going to be better on the Samsung Galaxy S25, but it is also an $800 phone, and I don't know if you'd be comfortable spending $800 when it comes down to it. So it really depends, but I would probably tell you that something like the iPhone 14, I think is a very solid option, and I think that is a very good phone to go ahead and buy if you're in the market and wanting to go ahead and pick up a device. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.